All right, here's my trades for Thursday, April 14th. This was my main trade, BABA. Made a lot of sense and worked out pretty well. Could have been a little bit better, um, but I'll go over here what happened. The daily here, basically, it's downtrending, um, like most other. A lot of these names are just downtrending still. They've had pops, and then they just are continuing to fade. So um, was doing my scanning last night, and I really liked this trend line. Um, you can you can see how it just perfectly touches the top of it, lower highs, spanning over about 4 days. Meanwhile, it has a really nice consistent low here at $99 and about 20 cents. $99.25. You can see it tests it here in the pre-market. It's the low of the day. It's the low of the next day. It's the low of the pre-market. And then it does break through it at the open and then gets right above it. And then even comes down and almost retests it. And so besides this breakdown, I mean, this is a 10 out of 10 support level. And I guess what I would have wanted to see, like if this support level would have been negated, or if it would have lost its its value here, I would have wanted to see it come up and then eventually break this trend line and maybe have like a bigger move, like an actual sort of compression breakout. Then I might have put a little bit more emphasis on this low here. But because it came up and respected the trend line really well, I just sort of stuck with this support level here. And then this morning, it was a perfect gap down. I mean, that just told me how this was an even better setup, because now I didn't have to necessarily short it at the open or deal with an inside day breakout. It was already gapping down, and now I was just looking for it to buy up. And this is one of those classic sort of compression breakdowns, and then we get the retest, and I shorted at the retest level. So yeah, I think this is pretty much a picture perfect setup for me and what makes sense with these levels. And then when I zoom in, I can go to the 1 minute here. So it came up to that level pretty precisely. I got in, sort of a starter position, because it did happen pretty fast and then it dropped pretty fast. I was expecting some kind of maybe double top or a move up again. Didn't want it necessarily to sell off too much. I wanted it to come up again so I could get in heavier. And because this was just the first 10 minutes here, and so it came up actually while I was down here. It made this little range happening right here. So I had a limit order to get in really heavy on the second time that it came up here. However, I had another order to get in a little bit more if it came up here, and then I had the final order to get up here. So I had a bigger picture idea with these positions and these ads, but it never ended up going higher than that. And then what I noticed here was some volume started coming in, and I saw some big orders start to come in. So for most of this morning, it was pretty sort of slow and nothing spectacular. But then I did see some big orders start to come in right around here around VWAP. And then I decided, you know what? I think this is actually the start of the move. I don't think it's going to come up here again. So I got in for sort of a momentum entry. Wanted it to move right away. It didn't. So I did get out of that momentum and then realized it wasn't continuing. Saw some more orders coming in. Got it. And then I started seeing other things sell off. You can kind of see in the corner of your eye all the other stocks start to flicker red, making new low of days, like that. So I knew it was going to get some help, and that this was most likely going to go down from here. So I got in again, and then it worked. Took a small partial here, another one at 97, and then another one at low of day, and then kept on just a small percentage just to see what it would do. I definitely could have gotten in heavier. This, I didn't really have a full 1 hour risk here. Probably had a half an hour risk. And so I guess I was just expecting it to come up again. And my stop would have been, the ATR was $5.60. My stop was going to be somewhere around 50 to 60 cents, about 10% of it. And that would have ended up being somewhere around this bar here. So my entry was right around here. My stop would have been somewhere up there. So I would have given it a little bit of leeway above 99. 99.20, 25 was the level. So I wanted to give it a little bit more, maybe even above that 50-cent mark. And that would have been my final stop out. And that's where I would have thought maybe it was not breaking down. But this is such a good setup. It just seems like it really wasn't going to break up. So here's Facebook. I didn't trade it, but this is just another sort of different kind of setup than the BABA one. The BABA one to me was just super clear, with a gap down and then a clear resistance. It comes up, hits that resistance, and you have a really good short potential continuation. Whereas Facebook, I feel like also had some pretty decent levels. This trend line was only spread out over about a day and a half, so this trend line's not near as good as opposed to the BABA trend line, which was over 3.5 days going down. And we could even zoom out and say maybe there is a trend line with Facebook, from here to here, something like that. But I don't like that trend line near as much because, I actually kind of like it, but there's just a big gap in here where it's not touching anything. And it's really only touching about twice, once here and then once up here, right? When you go to the BABA, every day it's touching it for 4 days in a row, sometimes even multiple times in the day, like here yesterday. Just super fresh, shorts are clearly in control. Whereas Facebook, shorts are in control in totality here. But there's some in-between stuff going on as well. So this trend line isn't quite as fresh to me, especially the last day and a half, where it didn't even really touch that trend line until pre-market this morning. And it was, a couple days ago it had hit it. So, but when I zoom in, it's clearly weak still. And where can we get in weak? Well, it was opening right around here. And I did like this 216.5 as a pretty good level. Maybe not a 10 out of 10 level, but a 9 out of 10, I would say. Yesterday, nice high that'd been tested like 5 times, pre-market high. It was a nice little consolidation breakdown point with some volume that came in right there for the breakdown. And then here it gets a little squirrely and it's not perfect here. But that's okay. The last 2 days, super fresh levels. And then you have this sort of uptrend condensing. So really, this is a good setup like the BABA one. It's just slightly different, right? And really, and the BABA actually gave me a move up to hit the 10 out of 10 level, whereas Facebook didn't. Facebook just sold off. Here I would have wanted Facebook to come up, hit this level, right? Show a little battle, maybe some big volume that comes in and some big orders, climactic volume, etc. Maybe even a double top, and then breaks the neckline, and then you enter right there, and then you got the big move down. That might have taken a while, but so that's what makes this setup better. Whereas what happened was a quick sell-off, and I just don't feel like I have that entry, that risk reward, because to me, wherever I get short in here, really, I don't know if it's a long yet until it gets above this level. So yeah, so I just wanted to go over that really quick, just kind of how I choose my levels and combine sort of the trend lines and the horizontal lines, and then where it opens and stuff like that. Before, probably months ago or, a year ago, I would have seen this maybe and thought, okay, this is a great short. So I'm going to just play the intraday levels that Facebook gives me and not care so much about this big level. If it's not getting up there, I'm going to trade off of these small levels. So I'd see this, we call that opening range, right? We have that 5-minute opening range. It breaks down, and then maybe I go short here, risking just above. I would do things like that, but now I'm not doing that as much anymore. I'm getting picky, and I'm saying it needs to have that higher time frame level where multiple days, multiple days of volume and funds and shorts or buyers or whatever are involved in that level. Whereas this is just more of minute by minute, things are just bouncing around, especially at the open. I mean, the first 10, 20 minutes is not going to be near as exact either. So, yeah. Okay, here's another setup and trade on target. I really like this one. Let's look at the daily here first to give a bigger context. Target's not as weak as BABA and a lot of these other stocks. Some of these consumer stocks are have been going up, and just recently it made a big move up and then made this really nice daily range here. So for about 4 days it was bouncing up and down in this range, which was awesome. A lot of times I love to play that short up here and then the long down here and just kind of play this, and then we get the eventual maybe break back down or the eventual breakout and continuation. So you have these fresh high and low levels that continue to get stronger and stronger with every inside day. And then when you zoom out, though, I think that the highs of these days really agree with this higher time frame level. This level is really thick, so let's get rid of that. So right here, this 237, right? Actually, let's just go to the weekly, and I bet that'll be clear. So here's the weekly. You can see here came up, rejected it, and then broke through it, and then made a double top, came up, resistance, and then broke down. And then on the daily, you can see it pretty well here. Boom, boom, boom. And then, maybe I'd be wrong on that, but you see the last 4 days, I mean, clearly that 236, 237 is resistance. So that tells me, okay, this is a really good, not only 4-day resistance, but a higher time frame resistance. So we have, a really good level here. Then today we have some compression leading up to it here, right? And then so when we go to the 15-minute, this is what I'm seeing. So here are those last 4 days, right? Have a nice up and down here, nice clear top. Oh crap! So here's right there, 236. Okay. So 236 is the high. That's what these 4 days agree on. That 236 doesn't want to get above that. Does not want to get below this 229.50, right? But the last 2 days we've seen higher lows, and then price opens up here, sort of respects this trend line, doesn't break down, consolidates, breaks up by about 10:30 here, and then breaks through it. And then what we want to see then is we want to see volume, right? And that's what we get. We got volume this morning. It's a little bit harder to see the volume. So right here, breaks up through 236. We got some volume. We got a low volume pullback, and then new volume again, and then it's up and running. Okay. So here's another version of it right here. Oh, crap. So this will show you the VWAP here. Okay. So right here. Okay, so and this is what I noticed. It breaks through it. You want to see new volume. I felt like we did. Came down, retested it. You could have gone long there, right? So that essentially is that 4-day breakout retest on this really nice 10 out of 10 higher time frame level. So it's a long above, it's a short below in my opinion. And it's only 10:30 when it breaks it. So you got plenty of time to get you know, a good continuation. ATR is 6.5, which is great because that probably means we have plenty of potential. Yeah. So right there. So there's your potential ATR. Here's the low of the day right here. So we're only at about 40% of its ATR when it breaks. So you have this large amount, and we had decent volume. I think it was up to about 90% RVol. So you got a retest here. You could have gone long here. Came all the way back down. Could have gone long here. But what ends up happening is the third test is actually the best one because the market and everything is selling off during this point. And so, you know, everything is hitting lows of day, new volumes coming in, etc. But meanwhile, this is holding up. We would have wanted to see this break down, maybe even retest, and then this would have been a great short. But it didn't do that. It held. And so I got in a small position just to watch it and see what it was doing. And you can see the spread and the volume isn't very good, so it's kind of patchy here on the 1 minute. But it holds throughout that whole big sell-off from the market, and then it hits a bid, have some breakouts, and then I get in heavier, and then it moves right away. It was great. It was a nice little triangle breakout. Hits this this range high here, this lower high, swing high, and then I do get all out here, but it does end up pulling back and then making one more move, even breaks high of day. So it was really sweet setup, just totally made sense. I feel like this was a 10 out of 10 level. You could have gone short under it if it would have broke it. You could have gone long above it. You know, maybe someone else would have gone long earlier in the day. You know, like would someone have gone long in here with the idea for it to break? I don't know. I wouldn't have. I mean, if you believed in this trend line, which I don't think it was super strong, I think it was a decent trend line, maybe a 7 out of 10 level. But I do think when you combine that with the idea of the daily, you know, it is trending up. It is pushing up against this level. We did have this breakout day here, so things are looking more bullish. And then you give it this sort of 7 out of 10 trend line. Well, maybe you make it an 8 out of 10 because you have that sort of momentum behind it and that bigger picture behind it. And so maybe someone would have wanted to get in with just a position, a small position in here, wait for the, you know, for the break, maybe partial, and then add in, and then just do exactly what I did, but on top of a core position from down here. So I don't know. It's a textbook sort of high of day breakout. This is sort of what John H likes to do in BBT, but probably not this clean, and he probably doesn't explain it like this. But this is like a clear high of day breakout and how to trade it. So, and it's really cool how it retested 3 times. Like I had Romo when it retested and took off. I was sort of pissed, and then it came down again. Should have put in a limit order. Bounced again, had Romo again, and then it came down one more time, and this ended up being the best one. So it's, you know, that's why it's always worth putting in a limit order or just keeping an eye on that 10 out of 10 level, putting an alert down there. Hey, you missed it. Well, why don't you just put an alert down here in case it does sell all the way off, you know? In the meantime, you can go look at other stuff. And that's what I've been doing more and more. So, yeah. Disney, not necessarily an A+ setup, but just a sort of an opposite scenario of Target. Disney has been selling off. It's clearly in a downtrend, super weak. It's seen its better days up here, and then it really broke this neckline. And ever since, it's just been going down, making lower highs, and now it's even compressing against this 130, 128, and we might see a really big breakdown here, which Disney might be in play here pretty soon. I bet there's even earnings or some kind of news is going to come out right at the same time when it breaks here, or maybe we'll get a big gap up and maybe we'll get a bag some really good news. It'll gap up, it'll retest, and then it'll maybe start its new trend up. Who knows? But I'm clearly in a downtrend, right? So it's different from target. So you have the downtrend on your side. So then here's the trend line. Here's a nice clear support. You can see the volume isn't very good, even on a 15-minute. This thing has really not been in play. The volume's been getting lower and lower. However, I really do like this 130 support. Clearly, it's holding up here. And then you have these slight lower highs going on. I like this trend line. And then today we open right at the trend line. We break out from it. And honestly, on my watch list, it showed the RVOL at about 110, 120% in that first couple minutes. So I'm like, wow, I wonder if this thing is breaking out. You know, it's right away starting with high volume, but that thing dropped really quick. It went down to 100, then to about 90, and then it settled between 80 and 90, which is still pretty good. You're still going to get a really good move off of an 80, 90% RVOL. And so when it failed it, I felt like, man, that's a really good short, because you got the fail of the trend line, you get that high volume that then sort of started to die and gets back under here. Now you're going to have a really nice move, probably down to the bottom of this support, and that's exactly what happened here. Of course, the market helped too. And this bar is the ATR. So you can see here that it moved even more than an ATR here by the end of the day. When you zoom in on the 1 minute, this is what it sort of looked like. Again, pre-market, shitty volume, not in play. However, it did come in with, this must have been higher than normal because it had high RVOL. Yeah, you can see here yesterday's volume was only down here. So it was much higher apparently in that first minute. And then after that, it started to die. But I do like, you know, with that bigger picture idea of a downward momentum, you have this opening range, breaks the neckline, gets under. I think it's a short right from here. I think you can use the trend line or even the high of day. And then even this pullback. I mean, this pullback, it hasn't even gone half of its ATR and it comes all the way back up. I think you can get in short here with a stop above that trend line, or maybe even above here, and then just hold on for the ride and hope that it trends down. I think it made sense to trend down like that. I just couldn't see it going up here and sticking around up here. You know, if it was going to, it was gonna be a breakout, and so otherwise it had to go down. And that's sort of how I look at those levels. But again, you know, this trend line compared to that BABA one, this trend line is not a 10 out of 10. This is just you know, a 7 out of 10, sort of a moving average, showing lower highs with that bigger picture downtrend on the daily. I think it just shows a really good, you know, what's going on, and where generally it shouldn't get too much higher. Otherwise, it's something new is happening and it's breaking out. And I want to go over this shop price action. I just love what it's done the last few days. And I just think it's another good example of using horizontal lines with trend lines. First of all, you can see this really nice support level here that was broken down with pretty good volume. So you had this nice sort of range, or maybe even multiple ranges, but all respecting this 670 support. Then it breaks down, then it retests. So now it's in play, meaning we know from 670 it's a short, right? Because on a higher time frame, it you know, it had about multiple weeks above here, breaks it, retests it. As long as it's under 670, it's now in a downtrend, right? As long as volume is decent. So now it's in play and it's a short until otherwise. So how do we use that information? Well, first of all, we had a nice retested here. You could have tried shorting it here. Goes down, breaks a low. Okay, this thing is still in play. It's still downtrending. And then for multiple days, it's respecting this 640 here, right? So low of day here, breaks down, gets back above, opens right here. This is high of day, breaks down. So this 640 right here is a really nice level. And then in the pre-market, it's a nice level. So you draw that line, and then on this day, came up, hit 640, and then boom, you had a really nice sell-off from there. So it's just clearly in a downtrend using nice horizontal levels. And then what we can do is we can build a trend line from there. So now we say, okay, it's downtrending, it's holding levels, and then it's breaking them, retesting, and then breaking more. So we're going to draw this trend line and see if we can use this trend line in conjunction with the next horizontal levels. So what I do is I say, okay, here's low of day. It broke low of day and then retested and then continued down. So I really like the 620, which is also an even number here. So I'm going to keep the 620 in mind and then draw that out. And maybe this trend line and this 620 will converge. If they do, that will increase their value. So then we go forward. We had an opening the other day where it flushed down, but then bought right back up. On this day, I'm pretty sure I was watching it, and I was hoping that it came up to this area, and it did, right there. And then it respected it. So again, that told me, okay, the trend line and this horizontal line is perfect right now. It's working really well, so we're going to hold on to those. We're going to continue that for now and see if maybe we can give even another setup. So let's hope that maybe the next following day we can get a buy up, hit 620, and then we can get a sell down. Okay, well, it didn't do it there, but yeah, I just really like that. The trend line is not the best, and I even think that I was adjusting it some. I think I even initially had the trend line right here during these few days, right? So I had the trend line right here, price opened, or it broke above, and then got under. So I'm like, oh, well, I need to adjust this trend line and maybe make it up here at the 640 because that's where they converge. So that's how I sort of adjust them too. When new horizontal lines are created, and then that in turn makes me have to adjust the trend line. And then that tells me, okay, boom, they converge there. And I'm going to hold on to this trend line for now. And then it ended up being a really good conversion again here too.